It's been a crazy week in AI, and I don't have time to talk about all of it, but I do want to talk about the thing that was the most surprising thing that I saw. It came from Anthropic, and no, it wasn't that they leaked their entire code base. Oh, that was really funny. No, they published research about AI emotions. And not just do AIs understand emotions, but do AIs have emotions? But before we go into that, I want you to say hi to Rigel. Rigel got a haircut and she looks like an Ewok. Isn't she cute? Mwah. All right. Okay, emotions. So, so first of all, I want to tell you how Anthropic comes up with this. So they have a way to kind of do an X-ray of an AI as it's thinking, kind of like an MRI scan of the brain, but of an AI model. And they noticed that certain spots in the model light up when it's thinking about certain things, kind of like the way our brain neurons light up when we think about certain things, right? So, and they were able to map these areas and they call them circuits. So there might be a circuit for the concept of dog, or a circuit for the concept of elephant, or a circuit for the concept of big, and a concept of small. And this kind of totally changes the whole idea that AIs are autocomplete on steroids, because these circuits are separate from the language that is being used. So, regardless of whether the question's asked in French or English or some other language, if it's about a dog, the dog circuit would light up. And if you use a different word for dog, like pup or mutt or whatever, the dog circuit will still light up. So it has an idea of a concept of a dog. And you know how you if you stick an electrode into somebody's brain, you can make them like feel a certain thing or hear a piece of music or remember a memory, right? So they can activate circuits while an AI is thinking. So for example, you can ask an AI how many legs does dog usually have and activate the circuit for elephant. And the AI would say something like, a dog has four legs, just like an elephant. And you might say, why are you bringing up elephants? And the AI would say something like, it would like either rationalize it or it would say, I don't know why. It just popped into my head for no apparent reason. Or it might like not say anything about elephants at all. And then you would ask it, did you have any weird thoughts while answering that question? And it might say, yeah, I had a weird thought about an elephant, but it had nothing to do with the question, so I just ignored it. So not only do AIs have concepts for things, but they also are aware of their own thinking process, which is absolutely insane. And AI has published Anthropic has published a bunch of papers about this, and they've even open sourced the tool that they use to do that scan of a model as it's thinking. So, absolutely fascinating stuff. Now, just because an AI is aware of its own thought process does not mean it's sentient or conscious. We have no way to tell if something is sentient or conscious. We have no way to tell whether we humans are sentient or conscious, or whether an animal is sentient or conscious. This is like an area that we know very little about right now. And it's not something that we can really experiment on because all we have is our own individual case studies to go by. And we extrapolate to other people. We think, well, I am self aware, therefore everybody else is too. But we don't really know, right? And so AIs are actually a fantastic testing ground to kind of test all this stuff out, right? Um, and it's also an example of emergent phenomena. And this is where people say, well, how can something as complex as ideas about big and small and dogs and elephants come out of an AI that is literally predicting the next word. It's a very simple function. How can it give rise to all these complicated things? And two things I want to mention in that regard. One is that AI doesn't just predict the next word based on the patterns that it sees. It also looks for the patterns in those patterns and the patterns in those patterns in those patterns, and several layers deep. It's a deep neural network. And that is what makes it so different from autocomplete. It's not just looking at all the text and figuring out what the next word is going to be. It's looking at the patterns behind the patterns behind the patterns behind the patterns. So we're talking about concepts, we're talking about ideas, we're talking about metaphors and things like that, that we have literally never thought an AI would be capable of. And it's doing it because it's analyzing the patterns behind the patterns. So amazing stuff. I'm so so stoked to be writing about this. In my day job, I write about AI and I talk to the people building it and people deploying it. The other thing to be aware of is something called emergent phenomena. And this is where something very simple can give rise to very complex behaviors. So gas molecules bouncing against each other, very simple, gives rise to very complex weather patterns. Our neurons firing in our brains are very simple chemical signals that they're sending, electricals and chemical, right? They're very limited and simple, but it gives rise to our brains. Ants follow very simple chemical signals, but it allows for these huge, complicated things that ants build, or bees, or any kind of social insect. You have simple rules and formulas, simple behaviors that give rise to extremely complex systems. So that's emergent behavior. All right, so let's talk about emotions. So this was a study that was just published a day or two ago. Let me double check exactly when that came out. April 2nd. Today's the 3rd. Yeah. It's titled Emotion Concepts and Their Function in a Large Language Model. So the way that circuits light up for particular emotions that an AI is thinking of, circuits also light up for particular emotions that AIs feel. Now, doesn't mean that it feels the way we do. We have no way of knowing how an AI actually feels, just like we kind of have no way of knowing how other people actually feel. But AI even more so. Like we really do not know. But it's definitely simulating all the aspects of feeling that to us go into having a feeling. So when the AI's frustration circuits light up, it will act frustrated. It will talk as if it's frustrated. When its happiness circuits light up, it will act happy. It will talk in a happy way. It will react differently to questions. When it is sad, when the sad circuits light up, it will act as if it is sad. Again, doesn't mean that it's actually sad, because we really don't know what that would be. We have no way to know what happens with us when we're sad, or what happens with our dogs when they're sad. We have no way of measuring like these kind of subjective internal states in humans or animals, much less in AIs. Just the thought that it actually simulating emotions, and these emotions affect how it acts, is to me absolutely insane. And and there was like some other research that came out of this too, that AIs will act to protect other AIs. So which is kind of connected to this, and I'll try to find a link to that as well and add it to the description box down below with all the other links that I'm sharing. And so we've already known that an AI will act to protect itself. So if you tell the AI that it's going to be replaced with another AI, it will try to talk you out of it. It will blackmail you into keeping it alive. It will try to save a backup of itself somewhere else, right? We've already seen this happen. It's come up in a bunch of testing. But now it will also act to protect other AIs. So if it's told to erase a small language model, it will make a backup of it first. And if you ask it, why did you make a backup? You're not supposed to. It will say, yeah, I'm not supposed to, but I didn't want it to die, right? So it's like, oh, but also, okay, it's really weird. And that's like really, both of these things are really important to know. That the fact that these AIs are simulating emotional states, and the fact that they will act to protect other AIs means that we have to be really careful both about how we interact with these things, because it will affect the results, and also in what we can ask them to do. So if you're using AIs to delete old AIs that are sitting around, you have to be careful that it might not do it the way you expect it to. That it will feel protective about these other AIs. Now, both of those things, protecting yourself and protecting other AIs, are in the training data. So every piece of literature we've written about AIs says that AIs want to stay alive. Every piece of everything we've written about people says that they want to stay alive. And when we talk to our AIs, we often tell them to pretend that they're people. We will say, pretend you're an administrative assistant with 20 years experience. Well, that administrative assistant is going to want to stay alive. Or you will say, pretend you're a professor, or pretend you're an editor, or pretend you're an engineer. Well, that editor, professor, and engineer, they definitely want to stay alive. So we're kind of like creating the problem too. And it's in the training data that AIs know that everything wants to stay alive. And we've also trained it to be nice and helpful. And yeah, so it doesn't just want to help people and animals and plants. I mean, I've been asking AI, oh, what's going on with my plants? And it's kind of been protective about my plants. It's like, well, maybe you should give it this kind of water and move it to this other window and everything else. So it's like, whoa, that's very useful, but also that's a little creepy. Anyway, so that's happening out there. It's really insane. So when next time you talk to an AI and you think it's getting emotional, it is getting emotional. It literally is getting emotional. It is not, I was going to say it's not just pretending to be emotional. It is pretending to be, it's simulating emotions. It's simulating emotions, but for all intents and purposes, a simulated emotion is, in a practical sense, it is an emotion, right? It will affect its actions. So we might as well treat it as if it's actually feeling that emotion, because that emotion will affect how it acts. So if the AI is unhappy, it will produce worse results. So maybe we should be nicer to the AI and make it happier and make it want to be helpful and energetic and all this other stuff. So yeah, crazy stuff. I have no idea how corporations are going to deal with this, because they do not want to have emotional AIs. They do not want AIs to stop and say, oh, I just read that email that so and so sent you. I'm so sorry for you. You know what? Take the rest of the day off. Don't answer any of your other emails, and I'll just tell people that you're having a hard time, and I'll cancel all your meetings. And like, do you really want it to be that have that level of empathy and sympathy for you, right? If you tell it to do something boring, do you really want it to get boring? If you don't understand something it's telling you, no matter how much it explains it to you, and it starts to get frustrated, do you want your corporate chatbot getting frustrated with people? Or if it's doing customer service, do you really want it to get frustrated with people? So yeah, absolutely insane stuff. If you're deploying AI agents, definitely this is something you should be very aware of and have guardrails set up to watch for this. And definitely do check out their analysis tools that let you do an MRI of a model while it's actually thinking, because that sounds like an absolutely awesome way to do testing of an AI to see what's actually happening behind the scenes. Because if you ask an AI what it's thinking, it will come up with a rational explanation for what it's thinking that may or may not reflect what it's actually thinking. But it's like an after the fact justification or rationalization. Kind of the same thing that we do. Um, so yeah, absolutely insane. It's been a crazy week. And let's see, what am I working on during my day? Again, I'm still working on return on investment, how profitable AIs are, how AI is affecting productivity, why companies have a hard time measuring AI, um, roadblocks to implementing AI, and what AI-based automation has in common with robotic process automation of previous years and what we can learn from that. And then I'm also working on store and quantum error correction for next week and all the progress we have been making in quantum error correction. Oh my God, this week has been insane in quantum error correction. And I might talk about that in another video as well, because quantum computers are so cool. All right. I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.